For math today, you guys are tasked with creating your own word problems. So you guys have done 4 word problems this week, and you've shown your answer with pictures and words. And today you're going to create your own word problem. And I already saw Dalton's picture of his word problem. I love that, Dalton. Great job on that. So I'm going to demonstrate by creating my own word problem. And I am going to write about... We've been taking a lot of walks lately, so I'm going to talk about our walks. And every time we take a walk, Ella and I, we look for animals. We see if we can try to find dogs, or one day we saw a turtle, and cats and things like that. So I'm going to imagine that we saw some animals on our walk, and we're going to see how many animals we saw. So I'm going to start by writing the word we. And we is a sight word. W-W-E. We saw s-ah. I'm going to leave space. S-ah. And again, these words don't need to be spelled completely correct. That's fine. If parents, you would rather help your child with the writing for this, I understand. Again, we're really focusing on the math here, but I'm going to just use this as a writing lesson also. So I'm just going to continue to write phonetically. So we saw, and some of you might know that is the word so. It's not the word saw. That's okay. I'm just writing how I hear it. We saw, I'm going to say we saw 2. So I'm going to write the number 2. Cats. At. The beginning of cats, I hear the k sound. So I'm going to make a C. K. A. I hear an A. K. At. Hear a T. K. At. And then an S. We saw 2 cats, and I'm going to write and I don't know if I have space there, so I'm going to come down here. A-N-D, and I know how to spell that because that is one of our sight words. We saw 2 cats, and I'm going to say 2 dogs. So I'm going to write the word, or the number 2, and then I'm going to leave space. And again, when you come to a word you don't know, just still stretch it out if you are using this as a writing lesson also. So I'm going to write dogs, D-A-G-S. At the beginning of dogs, I hear the D sound. So I'm going to make a D, D-A. I hear an A sound, so I'm going to do an O, D-A-G. I hear G, so I'm going to do a G, D-A-G-S. And then at the end, I'm going to make an S for S. We saw 2 cats and 2 dogs on that's actually one of our sight words. I'm leaving space, and I'm going to write on, O-N, on A. A is lowercase when it's by itself. We saw 2 cats and 2 dogs on a walk. Walk is a tricky one because it has a letter in there that you kind of hear but kind of not. So a lot of times kids don't tend to hear that one. So I'm going to do it like if I were a kindergartner. So I'm going to write walk. I hear the w sound, so I'm going to write a W. Walk. I hear an O. Walk. And the k sound. We saw 2 cats and 2 dogs on a walk. Now this, I'm going to put a period. So when you're writing word problems, you're probably going to have more than one sentence. You might have 2, you might have 3. If I were to start this out differently, I could have said, Ella and I went on a walk. We saw 2 cats and 2 dogs on a walk. So it doesn't matter how you write it, but you might have multiple sentences. So I am going to put my punctuation there, and I'm going to begin my next sentence with an uppercase letter. We saw 2 cats and 2 dogs on a walk. Now my question is, How many animals did we see? So I'm going to start by writing how, w. I'm going to start with an uppercase H for ah. I hear an sound, so I'm going to make an A. How, and then I hear the w sound, so I'm going to write down a W. How many, M-N-E. I'm going to leave space, and I'm going to write the sound, which is an M. How, eh. I hear an E sound. N. I hear N. Men, E. And then I hear an E saying its name. How many? The next word I'm going to write is animals. That's kind of a long word, so I might have to say it multiple times. Animals. At the beginning of animals, I hear an. Now, remember when I told you guys that you could use your word knowledge from words that you already know how to spell and incorporate that into words that you don't know how to spell. So an is a kindergarten sight word. And if you listen to the word animals, I hear that word an in it. Animals. So I know that an is A-N. So I'm going to go ahead and begin my animals with A-N. An, I. I hear an I saying I. An, I, I hear an M saying An, I hear the ol sound, so I'm going to make an L. Animals. And then I hear the S sound, so I'm going to make an S. So how many animals? The next word that I'm going to spell is did. Did. Can you chop did with me? D, I, d, did. I hear three sounds. I hear D for D. I hear I for I. D, id. And I hear another D sound. So this word has two D's in it. How many animals did we? I know how to write we. We is already a word that we've written, and it is a sight word. So I'm going to write W-E. How many animals did we see? There's another sight word. How do we spell see? S-E-E. Now, my last sentence is not a telling sentence. It's a sentence that shows that I'm wondering something. I'm asking something. I'm asking how many animals did we see? So I don't want to put a period there. I want to put a question mark. And a question mark is a little bit tricky to write at first. It's kind of like a backward C with a little bit of a short vertical line. And then under that is a dot, a period. So you guys can practice that. I know it might be a little bit tricky at first, and that's okay. It usually is. So our word problem is we saw 2 cats and 2 dogs on a walk. How many animals did we see? So I'm going to put my black marker down for a second, and I'm just going to come through and I'm going to write the correct spelling underneath. So we already know that saw was not spelled correctly, and again, that's fine. And I'm just going to write through. Your parents might do this on yours. Doesn't mean you didn't do a good job. It just means that they want to show you the correct spelling, and that's okay. You can see I did not spell all of my words correct either. So we saw 2 cats and 2 dogs on a walk. How many animals did we see? So I don't have room for my to solve the problem on this side, so I'm going to flip my board around. And I will help remind you guys what our problem is in case you forget. So now that I've written the problem, I want to solve it in 2 ways. I want to solve it with pictures, and I want to solve it with words. So the first thing that I'm going to do is start with what I know. So when we were on the walk, we saw what first? We saw 2 cats. So I'm going to start by drawing 2 cats. And I'm going to do my best. So there's 1 cat. I'm just going to do the heads when you guys are drawing the pictures to go along with your word family, or your word problem, you don't have to draw like the whole picture. If you're drawing an animal, you can just draw the head or however you want to represent that. If you were drawing a pig and you just wanted to draw a curly pigtail, that would be fine too. Everybody thinks differently, and that's fine. All right, so we have our 2 cats. So now I know that when we were on our walk, we not only saw 2 cats, but we saw 2 dogs. So next I'm going to draw 2 dogs. And again, just try your best. That's all we ask for. All righty. Gotta draw his little ears. All right, so we have 2 dogs. I'll give him a mouth too. All right, so we were on a walk and we saw 2 cats, 1, 2, and 2 dogs, 1, 2. So now we're wondering, how many animals did we see? So I've represented my problem with pictures and now I want to represent it with words and numbers. So we're going to, again, start with what we know. How many cats did we see? We saw 2. So I'm going to make a 2. The next word is a connector word. So we're going to write the word and. Can you guys spell and for me? A-N-D. 2 and. Now we're ready to put how many dogs we saw. How many dogs did we see? We saw 2. So 2 and 2. And then we're going to write the word is. Now remember, in kindergarten, we don't use the plus sign or the equal sign. That's something that you're going to start to learn in 1st and 2nd grade. We just write our number sentences and try to look for those combinations. All right, so 2 and 2 is. So now we have to count all of the animals together. Will you count with me? 1, 2, 3, 4. And some of you may have already known that was the answer just from listening to the word problem. So now I'm going to write the number 4 to finish our sentence, and I'm going to end with a period. So we have solved our problem using pictures and words. 2 and 2 is 4. So I have a picture of 2 cats, picture of 2 dogs. So I've solved it using 2 different strategies. And I actually created this word problem myself, and you guys are able to do that too. You can create your own word problems, and it doesn't have to be a problem like this where you're putting things together. It could be a problem where you're taking things away too. All right, guys, I would love to see some of your word problems. Dalton sent me his, and I got to share his on our Class Dojo page, so feel free to send me yours so I can share it as well. All right, have fun, guys.